What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Contractor Secrets podcast. And today I sit down with one of the absolute best craftsmen in the painting game, Zach Kenney. Not only is he a craftsman when it comes to the application of paint, he's a craftsman when it comes to building his business. And that is what I love. So tune in right now. He's dropping some gems. We got book rent recommendations. We've got some notable quotes that I think you're going to really get some value out of. And this starts right now. The big question you need to ask yourself every day is, do I own a job or do I own a business? And unfortunately, the majority of contractors out there own a job. That's right, they're a slave to their own business. But the other side of the fence is so much greener, it's so much better, and that's when you're finally fully in control of your destiny, your freedom, your time. And that's what Contractor Secrets is about. It's about taking back our time, building a business with systems, standards, values, procedures, putting yourself in the driver's seat. And that's what it's about. So I'm excited. I'm happy to have you here. Let's dive into the Contractor Secrets podcast. What is going on, everyone? I'm here with Zach Kenney of ZK Finishing up in, and now you're in Boston?
Yeah.
Oh, man. So really, man, I saw you at the PC Expo. I'm so upset I didn't get to your booth. As I told you, you were doing the virtual spring. I love that. Really seeing you in this group and seeing some of the things you post. I was actually really wanting to start off with, what is it about you guys, man? Like, why is it that every time you post something, the standard is so high? I mean, what is that in you that just says, if I'm going to touch something, it's going to be to the highest possible standard? And, you see people talk about pricing, right? It's so hard to sell XYZ. Tell me how you're building value with customers in a way that just gets them to say yes. I mean, how do you really separate yourself to the point where you're almost an outlier, in my opinion, in the painting space? How do you find those niche clients? Let's start there.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start with I'm obsessed with craftsmanship and have been since the first time I touched a brush when I was 14 years old. So I have a rich history of bosses being frustrated by how much attention to detail I was showing toward like a window sash and like, hey man, like we're not getting paid to restore this. You just got to paint it and move on. So that's sort of like in my DNA, I guess. I love the craft. And so when I went out on my own about 12 years ago, it was always the goal to push the level of craftsmanship. It was very much an ego-driven thing. It's embarrassing. Like I was embarrassed. I was dating a girl who was in medical school when I first started, and like talking to all these people, and you're like, yeah, I'm a paint contractor. And that always had such a negative connotation that I would but I do like really high end stuff. And it was like a bunch of like qualifying after to like not feel so insecure.
Yeah.
So I think it very much started there. But it's now turned into a very profitable, we have a target market, a very clear idea of who our ideal client is. And we serve them. We built a company to serve them better than anybody else. And so, like you were saying, yeah, we sell expensive. Like we are always the most expensive, and quite often we're 2 and 3 times the price of other people. We're selling like multi 6-figure jobs on the regular now. It's insane. But it's all because we're adding a ton of value. Like the client understands you get what you pay for. And the sales process is a very involved 2 to 3 hour process of trying to understand what makes somebody tick, what really matters to you. Here's a suggestion. What do you think about this? Really boiling down the essence of what does a client want, and then writing the scope of work that hits that. And so if you do that properly, my experience is the price, it's a lot easier for a client to digest it if you've demonstrated value.
It's subjective, right? I mean, it's one of those things where, hey, listen, but it's your job to advocate that. And I think as you grew your business and as, your reputation began to take its, to snowball into what it is now, I think that became a lot easier. And I think there was probably a point in time where it was almost like, someone say, hey, come and refinish this door. And you really had to go into a lot of depth into how exactly that's going to happen in a way to justify, hey, this is going to be an $8,000, project, knowing what's all involved in that when they may have gotten a bid for $2,000. did you find that it was really hard for you to, in other words, we know building value, but almost sell your craftsmanship to these customers when the standard wasn't even close? And I know that's happened. It's probably still happening now, but you probably have a pretty good pre-qualification process at this time. But I know there was a time where you didn't. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So today we close about 80% of our proposals because it's really hard to get me to come out and look at your job.
Yeah.
I have a very clear idea. But in the beginning, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to do this work, and I had a general idea that there were people out there who like paid for upgraded appliance packages and paid for like maybe, and like it just seemed like it was reasonable. They would also pay for an upgraded paint package.
Right.
So it started off by like figuring out how to do the work. So I like begged a client on an exterior about 5 years ago, probably. I begged them to let me do a high gloss entry door for like $800. And I was like, please, like, let me do this. It's going to be unbelievable. I got to take your door.
Yeah.
And of course, like you're like, at the time it was really hard and scary to ask for somebody's door for 2 weeks. I think I asked for it for a week.
Yeah.
Today we say we need your door for 2 to 3 weeks. And I have a state-of-the-art facility. But I'm like, today I'm like, hey, you want it or do you not want it?
Right.
Back then I was like, please, can you like let me paint your door? Like I'll do a really good job. Like that's how it was, because I didn't have any proof of concept and I couldn't show them anything.
I don't think that was before Instagram was probably popular as well, right? So you didn't really have
Instagram.
Wow. So
at that it was point, very much like there's this idea. Let me tell you about this idea, and like, will you trust me? So then, of course, the first time I took the door and I needed it for like 3 weeks and I kept messing up. And, you start to learn like how much it costs to do the work. At first it was like, I just want to sell it for whatever it takes for this guy to at least pay me some amount of money to try to figure this process out.
Right.
Once I had done it enough times, you start to realize like, oh, wow, like I can't do what I'm doing and not charge, $7,000 to paint a door. And so I think like understanding how to do it came first, and then being able to advocate for that. So then it's like, okay, the next 5 clients later, you've got your process down, you have some like portfolio, and you're like, so here's this door. If you want this door, here's how much it costs. And it's a lot easier when you have a proof of concept.
Right. Right. There was a post that you put out, probably a year ago. Now time has really flown, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, this guy's on it. Right. So you were doing a door and you actually broke down the process of building a wooden enclosed structure, obviously in place of the door. And I just thought it was brilliant. I just thought that, wow, that is how it's done. And I think, I'm sure that's, I don't know if it's common. I don't know if it's not, but these are questions that maybe customers have, like, okay, you want to remove my door. Well, what's going to happen here? Do you put a plastic sheet up? Am I going to be safe? And what I loved about what you did was it was so precise. I mean, you really broke down the whole, you remember that video? It was like you outside in the van. And I think like, you're just like, cutting your wood and like making this door, and I think that's really cool, man. I think like that just showcases, how serious you take it. And it, again, building value is what I preach. And I think, you hit that on the head there. I really appreciated watching that.
Yeah. And that again came from trial and error. Like the first time you're like, please, can I take your door? I know, like, I'll bring it right back. And like, well, what are you going to do? And you're like, I got to put some plywood up. Now I'm like, Miss Jones, I'm going to take your door for 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to put up a piece of plywood. The whole neighborhood's going to be like, what's going on over there? And then we're going to bring back a piece of art, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So the exact same thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
But when you when I know and I can stick behind it, when they push me, well, could you bring it back in a week and a half? No, I can't. Here's why. And then shut up. Right. It's all like negotiation is 101. It's like, say what you have to say, and the first one who talks loses.
Yeah.
I used to like negotiate against myself all the time. Oh, well,
average,
and now it's just like,
I want to hear some general number. Average door cost on a refinishing of a door. What are you charging? Like on a
7,000 is the average cost of a single door.
Yeah, single door.
$7,000 to paint one door. Yeah.
Now you're huge on fine paints of Europe. How does that work in terms of distribution to you? Do you have a local store or are they shipping it to you? I don't
Yeah.
really know. I have never used that paint.
We have a number of, I'm lucky, I'm in an awesome market, the Boston market now, and even in Rhode Island, like we have a number of distributors, so we can just go pick some up.
Perfect. Yeah. So in terms of costs, I mean, hardly anything aside from labor. Now, one thing that I've always said is that it's very hard to scale skill. And I assume that you being such a craftsman, you know, at some point or another, you said, hey, I could probably get some help here. And at one point or another, that was probably a challenge to you. Probably the same limiting beliefs you hear everyone say is that no one will do it as good as me. How have you
Yep.
combated that in your business? Now, tell me, and I'm sure we're going to transition to ZK, you know, finishing school. And I don't know, tell me a little more about that. If it's an internal thing or if you're, you know, helping other people, I want to know a little bit more, but how did you combat that? Because people at one point or another probably said, we want Zach to do our door. And that was probably a little bit of a crossroads for you. So how did you navigate that?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, you build a business model around what you can do well. And so, when you're the sole proprietor and you're the guy on site every day in the sales process, like you sell that real hard. And then
Right.
the clients who care about that hire you. That's what I sold forever. Like, I'm going to touch this. I'm going to own this. It's all me, me, me. And then the clients who like the sound of that, they hired me. Well, today I haven't painted in 2 or 3 years. It's a completely different model. So I sell speed and reliability.
Yep.
And so
Communication, speed, reliability.
everything.
Yeah.
It's like we are high quality, low risk at scale. That's my value prop.
That's the dream.
Yep.
You know, to be able to keep the quality as high. So
yeah. And so we are an all subcontractor based model now,
what?
which is no one believes is possible, right? I had a lot of head trash around subcontractors can't do high quality work, right? I think that's a very well established myth in our industry. Right. What I have learned through sort of serendipity is it's not about subs not being able to do good work. It's that the guys who are subcontracting, they suck at sales and marketing. Like that's not what they got into this business to do. So what ends up happening is, and also I think generally the sub model is pretty messed up. It's more of like a broker model of like, I have a job, you go do it, collect the check, I'm not involved, and give me my percentage.
Right.
We do a very much of a like, we are here to add a ton of value to the client and to the sub. So I'm going to make the sub's life easy. I'm going to make the client's life easy. And that's how I justify my money I take out of the equation. So what I've found is we're a professional sales, marketing, and management company. I can sell a job for more than the sub could sell the job for. Anyway, like whatever I give the sub, they weren't going to sell that same exact job for nearly that amount. So they're getting more money than they would. Yeah, what I give them is more than they would sell it for themselves. Right. And what I found is most guys who are these subs, like most humans want to do good work. Like people want to do and feel good about what they do every day. But if I give a sub a $3,000 budget to paint a kitchen, he's going to figure out a way to like not pay to paint the kitchen. So he's going to reverse engineer backwards and he's going to cut a lot of corners and it's not going to be pretty. But if I give that same sub $10,000 to paint that kitchen and I support him a little bit, magically high quality work gets done. And so what I recognize is our industry is just, we are so competing on price. Everyone is racing to the bottom. The easiest way to sell a job tomorrow, if you need to get work, lower your price. That's always going to be the case. But if you
good for survival, bad for scale.
Yes. And bad for profitability over time. So I am a huge, huge believer in marketing. Marketing is the key to my success, period. It's not how good I can paint. I painted really, really well and was dead broke forever. It was not about being really good at painting. Yeah, you have to be good at painting. But when I finally saw the light about how powerful marketing could be, it changed everything. Brand recognition, brand identity. People will pay a premium for a brand name. And so I've spent a lot of time building a brand. And so it commands a price premium that allows me to make a profit while my sub makes great money, while the client gets a great deal at the end of the day.
Amazing. And I think what's interesting is that I'm blown away because at first glance, seeing your brand and your business have that subcontractor model, I would have thought that everyone is in-house. So you just blew my lid in terms of what limiting beliefs I had, because I would say that you're setting the standard in what I've seen. And I've been paying attention to painting businesses around the United States for like 4 years now, and you guys really do set the standard, and you do a really great job of displaying that. Clearly, you have like 40,000 followers on Instagram. But what's interesting is that the sub model is that it's a little scary for some, right? And especially with you guys having such a high reputation, are you training your subs? How does that work? I mean, are you allowed to train your subs? Like, what does that look like? Like, I'm sure you have some pretty close knit subcontractor relationships. Tell me about how does that work?
Yeah. So, and all this started very serendipitously through ZK Finishing School. So, through Instagram, I had no work when I started on Instagram 5 years ago. I had this idea that I was only going to use Fine Paints of Europe. I had nobody who wanted to pay me to use Fine Paints of Europe. And so I sort of like, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And I painted a lot of furniture to try to flip it. That's not a very profitable business model. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I barely made it through that winter, but I started Instagram. And because I was just documenting everything and like following very much a Gary V mentality to social media, I grew a following, and I started to get questions and people asking me things, and I would answer them because I had all the time in the world. Hey, call me, man. I'll talk to you for 4 hours. This is great. What an honor that you're asking me.
Sure.
2,000 people into asking the same 4 or 5 questions. And then you start to get busy. It started to drain me out. Like I was getting burnout. I was starting to like resent people asking me questions, where like, it's what made me. Like, I love helping people, but scale and time became a thing. I had all the time in the world and no money. And now my time is way less.
Right.
So one day I was just like, I can't keep answering all these questions. And so I was just like, I'm going to start a school where we teach classes on painting.
Love it.
And I posted a story that day, sold out the first class.
I did see that, man. You guys had the clean brochures. Like, that was really well done. I actually followed along on I think the first day, had like ZK on the folders, man. It was really well done.
Yeah, we got certificates for everybody.
Love that.
But I've been to a number of classes, and so I knew what I didn't like and what I did like about going to classes. And the real thing is about real learning, right? A year from now, I want someone who comes to our school to be living and breathing a different type of life and practicing a different type of life. It's easy to have. I could bring a bunch of people to my shop. I have a state-of-the-art facility. We're going to nerd out about paint for 2 days. You're going to go home full of energy, no matter what, and all like excited. And I did that. I left classes all excited, but I didn't have any real learning. And so a year later, my life didn't look any different. So we started just experimenting with, teaching. We use Fine Paints of Europe Hallmark Brilliant as our, like, if you can use this, you can do anything.
Right.
And so we started teaching these in-person classes. And through that, I met my first sub. And there was a project that was far away from me that I was too busy to get to. And I was like, hey man, you really want to do a high gloss ceiling? Like, let's team up. I'll support you on doing this. And it went really well. And it just, one thing led to another. We brought him on another project. And now, we'll sub well over $1 million worth of work to him this year.
Crazy. It's interesting how that just organically occurred. And it was almost like you had to be forced to try it to be like, oh, this works. It's kind of similar to me. When COVID hit, I thought I had to be at every single estimate and in order to sell work. And what was cool is that, I definitely distanced in the beginning, and it was cool because I could sell the jobs virtually. I'm like, okay, we're doing virtual estimates now. Right. So it was actually insane to see how adoptive people were to sending photos. And now that's a part of our business. It's almost like we can almost quote anything virtually. No problem at all. Build value over the phone, jump on FaceTime if needed. And that saved me a ton of time. And it actually got to the point where I don't even have to do estimates on the ground anymore in my own business. So I could see how that organic approach to subcontractors would work. One thing I'm curious about, in terms of your role daily, what is it that you focus on? You clearly don't have any paint on you. Do you just step in for the Instagram shoots? Like, what is going on? Because I think I've seen you in a couple recently, but are you just quality controlling, just building up the following?
My job is.
How do you handle people that reach out to you from out of state? Because I know they probably want your work too. How do you handle that?
Unfortunately, like we're happy to travel out of state. Like, have a lot of people talking to us. We will do it. but we're already the most like by far the most expensive in our area. Now you're going to pay for my hotel and lodging and my travel, like per diem. We're doing a project that's like it's still in Massachusetts, but it's like so far away. We have hotel and travel
Wow.
expenses included. They come up, but they're incredibly cost prohibitive right now.
Sure.
So we're not really focused on that. But my job is sales and business development, marketing, and then management, overall management of the company. So I step in for technical stuff. I'm still, a massive paint nerd, master craftsman. I understand painting at its like core level. So I'll step in and help with like order of operations, maybe a little like technical stuff here and there.
But at one point, you were a technician, man. You were the guy doing it, and you've
I've
grown.
sanded till my fingertips were
Yeah,
bloody
it's
my
crazy.
entire life. That's what
Yeah,
I love
and
doing.
and you don't have that itch anymore. Do you feel like you graduated from that, or are you just
Yeah.
at a place where you're more of a teacher, right? Like you're more of a consultant to others. Is that kind of what's happening?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of two things. I was sick of being broke, so there was that, and then I was also like, I understand that I started to. Some smart people told me you can do a lot more with your head than you can with your hands. You can affect a lot of change. Like I'm a big believer in karma, and so like by doing what I'm doing, like and scaling this company to where we plan to scale this to, um, I can affect and positively affect way more lives by being the CEO or the president, like managing the company, than by being the guy who applies the paint.
100%. 100%. It's such a narrow focus when so many people are counting on you. And I think like for me, it was the same thing. Just, you got to have somebody's got to be looking from the top down to make sure people are doing their job, doing okay. How do how do you balance, inconsistency in production, man? Sub calls you, customers upset. I think touch ups are probably the hardest part of your business, if there are any, and any cabinet refinishers that I've spoke to. Very stressful aspect of the business. I mean, what is your protocol with those, and how do those get addressed in a way that doesn't cause a ripple?
So I think that so my favorite business book, I won't stop talking about it ever. It's called Understanding Michael Porter. If you are in business and you have not read Understanding Michael Porter, you're missing out.
All right, hold
Uh,
on. What's it? So we have a business book recommendation.
Understanding Michael Porter.
Michael Porter. And what does that have to do with business? Because I've heard of a lot of business books, and never in my life have I heard this book before.
That's because this is what the big boys are reading.
I like
One
that.
one of my clients, who's one of the most famous and huge money managers in Boston, has a reading list that everyone who works for him has to read. And he gave me that list, and this is the best book I read on that list.
Interesting. To give me a
Um,
synopsis.
so it's really about strategy and competitive advantage and understanding business models. And so understanding competitive advantage in general is something that has to be built into your business model. It takes time, and it's not something you can just buy. And out executing the competition is not a strategy, right? It's understanding adding a bunch of things up equals a better total outcome for the client. It's a much more meta put the pieces together. Pretend your revenue is 1,000x and you are a CEO managing managers. How are you going to build your company's model? Who's your target client, and what's your value chain? What are the series of things you do that add up to a greater value for the client than anybody else, right? It's very much a big picture looking of business models, and not just saying I'm going to out execute or I'm going to be the best. These are
Right.
not strategies, right?
Because it doesn't really matter. And it's not like, it's one of those things. We're not competing iPhone versus Android here. This is, most of what we offer is a custom service. And would you agree that everyone needs to be sold differently? Every job needs to be done differently. And in terms of competition, I'm sure you don't even look at what the competition's doing. You're saying focus more narrowly on your own processes, in a sense that any deviation from that could lead you astray, right? I mean, is that the mindset?
It very much, like, the key piece to this is trade-offs. You cannot have real competitive advantage and real strategy without making trade-offs. You
Yeah.
cannot be all things to all people. And
Interesting.
so saying no is very important, right?
Tell me about that, because I think you
I
say
saw
no
your
probably.
post this week. I say no a lot.
Yo, what'd
And
you
it
think
was
of my
really
post?
hard. I love it.
Yeah.
It's because, and that's what it speaks to, what we're talking about, of like, so I have this, like, this invisible circle. Inside of this circle are all of the human beings that are my ideal client, right? They value what we offer. Our value prop lines up with what they value.
Yeah.
Right. And so we spend a lot of time understanding who these people are, what makes them tick, and how
Yeah.
can we better serve them.
Yeah.
And the people just outside of that circle,
Yeah.
they're the worst.
Facts.
They're the people who want us to open our circle up and include them. And then
Yeah.
we lose all of our value prop, all
Yep.
of our value chain of the things
Yep.
we do that make efficiencies goes out the window, and then there goes the profit.
Yep.
So it's when you
Well, there goes
understand
the profit
strategy,
or the process, right? It's like a major ripple.
well, the process ruins not following process, which you've designed,
Ruins
which is
profit.
makes you
Yeah, there you go.
efficient,
That's
ruins your profit.
Agreed.
So that's a long answer to culture. Like, I've built a brand. What it means to be a Yankee. When you play for the Yankees, it means something, right?
Yeah.
When you paint for ZK Painting, it means
Oh
something.
man, I love this topic, because hold on, I got to stop you, because the thing about it is that now, do you even have employees?
I have one in-house employee, and then myself and my business partner are employees of the company.
But is there somewhat of a wait list to become a subcontractor for you? Is there some sort of barrier to entry at this stage, right?
100%.
Right. So tell me what that looks like. Because in the same way, I'd like to kind of compare that to some of the hiring principles in employee model companies like myself. It's almost like, yeah, I am the big leagues in my area in terms of, at least at the very least, customer service, right? Maybe we're not highest level quality first shot, but we won't leave until the customer's happy. We have that level of standard. Our online reputation exudes that, right? And somebody looking to work for a house painting company sees that and says, I want to be a part of that. And I think what you just told me is that you have that same thing, but subcontractor model, I'm interested in seeing what that filtering out process is. So tell me about that, and tell me about the wait list, if there is one.
Yeah, so it's very much we've been interviewing subs lately. We're starting to bring on, we're cultivating a list, right? Of here's what you're good at. Like, I want to know how I can make you money, sub. Like, tell me what you want to do. Tell me what you don't want to do. Tell me the area you want to work in. Tell me the stuff that you do well, the stuff you don't do well.
Right.
And I will start to build a profile of who you are and what types of jobs I can offer you. And then obviously, I'm not going to just offer you a $250,000 interior repaint tomorrow. Like, I'm going to start you on a small $5,000 to $10,000 job.
Wait. Tell me you've sold the $250,000 repaint before.
We have one starting May 5th. I just sold a $180,000 one last week. I have a $660,000 one hoping to close this week, and a $330,000 one
retirement
this week.
That's crazy, man. How long do some of these jobs take? Just curious.
So the $250,000 one will be done in 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Goodness gracious, man.
That's kind of like
it's amazing. I love it.
They're paying a premium for that, right? They're paying a premium for
time and
quality.
Listen, there's more. There's more. And it's interesting. And what that does is just showcase people are willing to pay for quality. And I'm product focused, right? So, you've seen I have Dripjobs. And what's interesting is that I'm not going crazy with marketing. I don't even care. I'm so focused on making the product the best possible product that it could possibly be, to the point where it's undeniable when it comes time to pay for it and use it, because it's just, there's nothing better. Right. And it's almost like you're doing that. Well, you are, in a sense that, like, it's either you go with us and it's going to be done to the standard of which that we both expect, or you risk it with someone else.
High quality, low risk, at scale.
That's
it. That is our value prop.
High quality, low risk, at scale.
When you have more money than you have time, you are much more likely to pay the premium to not take a risk. Agreed. And that's what we sell, right? The brand name. When you buy Tylenol versus CVS brand, it's because you trust Tylenol a little bit more.
A little bit more. Yeah, and you're going to pay that extra dollar, Yeah. No, I love that, man. There was there was so much you said here. I want to try to get as much out of you as I can. When it comes to somebody wanting just a cabinet refinishing job, and they come across your brand, what does that intake look like? I mean, what can they expect? Like, how do you filter out who's a good fit, who's not a good fit? Tell me about that pre-qualification process.
the first question is, how'd you hear about us? Every time. And that's going to really tell me a lot. We've
I
never
saw your
won a job.
Instagram, right? Like that's a
Exactly.
good one because it's like
That's it.
that's a golden nugget, right? Yeah.
If you say Google, I've never sold a job through Google.
Wow.
Probably never will.
Yeah.
That is not where we're going to find our clients.
Wow.
Our clients are not going to Google to research painters.
Yeah.
Because again, they want low risk and they want quality, and it is what it is, right? So it's the first question is, how'd you hear about us? Oh, Mrs. Jones, you did her kitchen and she said it was great. Well, I already know, like, Mrs. Jones' first thing she said was like these guys are great, but they're expensive, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna pay for what you get, is
So
what
she already
Mrs. Jones is gonna
pre-qualified
say.
for you. If you call
So
them,
we already know. Yeah, they're in the same neighborhood. So she knows Miss Jones paid. Our average kitchen is probably $20,000 to $30,000 for a kitchen cabinet refinish.
Amazing.
So like she kind of knows that, and then I'm gonna throw those numbers out.
Right.
Like, all right, so our average kitchen is $25,000 to $30,000. Depends on what it is. Blah blah blah. Let me tell you about our process. Here's what it's going to be like. What matters to you? Tell me some more. And then I'm going to ask for pictures. And then through pictures, I can give you a rough budget. And if the rough budget lines up, then we're going to schedule a time to come out and we're going to go through a much more involved sales process.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if they don't have a designer on board, we're going to suggest a designer, because if you're going to spend 25, 30,000, you better have colors you love.
Yeah.
And so it's very much a understanding, but it's really easy. That's a 5-minute phone call. And so if they can pass those few hurdles, all right, I'm happy to come out.
Yeah. Now, do you have an estimator or is it you?
It's me.
Interesting. That's what I was wanting to hear. There's no reason.
There's no reason. I can sell
selective.
Yeah, I can sell such a large volume. I could probably sell 6 to 8 million myself.
Crazy
because of the size of the projects and how fast we estimate.
And it's only compounding from here, though. Do you feel as though that at some point in time you're going to have to release yourself from that role as well, or is that something 100%. That you got? Yeah.
I want to do 25 million in the Boston area in 10 years. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to scale things. But right now we're focused on building systems and processes and executing for our clients, building reputation, building the brand. It's been, all of this comes from the pain of difficult experience. Like I've tried everything, failed at everything. I didn't make $1 painting in my company for the first 7 or 8 years. I paid taxes. I paid 7 years worth of taxes in the last 2 years.
You could go back and give yourself at a level of, let's say, the average contractor. Maybe he's just trying to figure things out. He's got maybe 1 or 2 guys with him and he's trudging along and maybe listening to this, trying to get some nuggets from you. I mean, what would that be? That transitional piece of advice, do you think?
Marketing.
It's spend money to make money, right?
And it's free. Social media marketing, I teach a class on it that, it's the best $1,500 you'll ever spend. It's at ZK Finishing School. Through social media, for you doing it yourself. It's a Zoom class that I teach.
Oh, cool.
And I've had 50-year-old guys came in with no social media experience. They did $500,000 in revenue from Instagram last year.
Wow.
After taking the class.
Wow. Was it zkfinishingschool.com?
ZKFS.net.
ZKFS.net. Got it.
There's a very easy way. It's not intuitive necessarily, but it's very easy to start to build a brand through social media with intentionality. Most people don't have intentionality. They don't have a plan. They're just posting some stuff here and there, saying, call us for a free estimate, all sorts of stuff that are just not going to help them sell.
Right. Yeah.
But if you do it properly, I think that it's definitely.
Do you agree? I mean, in other words, it's weird because the way that we interact with our friends on social media is conversational. It's checking in on them. And it's almost like, I think where you're getting at is almost without, short circuiting, your advice here, but I'm just saying it's almost like you're documenting, and it's almost that the flow of the leads are almost, they want to participate in what you're documenting, would you agree? I mean,
it's very much documenting. It's understanding who your client is first. We talked about, you have to have a good business model. You have to be a company that you would want your grandma to hire if she was your target market, right? You have to be good first. So go get good. A lot of these guys should probably shut down and go work for somebody.
Right.
until they get better.
It's harder to sell a poor product. When you know the product is good, there's a lot of leverage there. No, I
There
love
is.
that. I love
There
that.
is. So
So
get good.
ZK Finishing School, can they come up to you, or did you do those in
You
person still?
can. So we do in-person painting courses every other month. We keep it very small. It's all hands-on for 2 days straight. You will walk out a much better painter with an understanding of how to go home and really execute like a professional and not like the Wild West that we're sort of raised in as
Sure.
painters. And then the social media class is through Zoom, so you can take it remotely.
Interesting, man. Well, dude, thanks so much for giving me your time today on the pod. And I'm sure this will get watched a few times on the group. So you gave us a book recommendation, Understanding Michael Porter. That's there. We got some gold nuggets from you, man. Learn how to say no. That was huge, in terms of just identifying your ideal client and going back to that message. It's funny, before we depart, everyone just sees money first, right? It's almost like, how could you give up, all that money? And it's like, well, there's always a cost to it. And you might not see it up front. And if we're just so price focused and, that could lead us heavily astray.
And don't get me wrong, like you have to eat.
Sure.
So
yeah.
that
was the only job I had. I mean,
if you got nothing else, which I did this for a long time, but what I didn't do was market.
Right.
Right. I didn't market those jobs that I didn't want to be doing.
Absolutely.
I just used them to pay the bills, get by. Hey, client, don't tell your friends about this one.
And what I love too, though, is that the fact that the way you market almost pre-qualifies for you. It's like when someone sees your work, they're like, oh, that's a little bit different than what I saw that guy doing the other day on a front door. I mean, seeing it in the shop.
But the same thing can be done if your competitive advantage is speed and professionalism, and you're not like the most expensive. Yeah. Your social media should beat the drum of that, so that if I follow your social media, I understand what makes you special. Agreed. And you sing the song that your client wants to hear.
Right.
Absolutely. So people see my stuff and they're like, well, I don't do like $7,000 doors, so Instagram's not going to work for me. It's like, well, no, just beat the drum of what your clients hire you for.
Exactly.
And then more people will find you.
Well, first identify what it is that you do in the way, I think that's important too. Yeah. Like for us, one of our value propositions is 4 painters on every job, and a lot of other companies here, 2 and 3. So I hit that hard, it's like, hey, we're coming, we're a unit, it's a team, so yeah, like you said, beat your own drum. A couple more things I just want to hit on. Being good at painting isn't as powerful as being a great marketer as a business owner, and I think you of all people relaying that should hit the point home. Before this conversation, dude, if you would have asked me, hey, what does Zach do? He paints every day. He kills it. He just, and that's the perception that I had. But I love that behind the scenes, you're this scientist of marketing. And I would say that it's working very well. If I have the perception that you're the guy doing it and the quality is where it is, I think you've really done a really good job. One of our questions was, can subcontractors, produce quality work? If you didn't think so before, go look up Zach's company. And then, of course, just want to recap. Thank you so much, Zach, for your time. Yeah. Look forward to seeing your contributions again in the group, and would love to maybe have you back once you hit a different level. Or you want to share some more?
You should come take my social media class.
Yeah.
So, I'll run you through it. No charge to you.
Really?
I want you to take this class, and I guarantee you it drives serious revenue.
Okay. Yeah. If I will say, my painting business, Instagram is very weak. Very, very weak. We've been surviving off of Google mostly. So the total antithesis.
So let me help you build. You're going to track revenue from your Instagram.
Okay.
Followers, likes, views. It's who gives a crap, right?
Okay. I'm interested.
We're going to start to track revenue from Instagram. And if you do it right, I can show you the formula. I guarantee you start to do real revenue from Instagram organically.
Yeah. I would love it. Let's do it. Yeah. Don't look at my company Instagram right now. It's weak.
We won't.
But we're gonna fix that. I'm interested. Thank you. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. I'm gonna end it. Dripjobs CRM is finally here. That's right. So Dripjobs is an automation platform for contractors, home service professionals that's going to automatically follow up with your customers. It's going to allow you to send invoices, estimates. It's going to allow you to send out blast marketing emails to individuals based on where they are in the buying process. This software is next level. And I'm reaching out to you. You're a listener of this podcast, and I want you to be one of the first ones to give it a shot. So if you want to see what Dripjobs can do for your business, I'd love for you to head over to dripjobs.com, sign up for a free demo and get your team involved and let us sit with you and show you how powerful this software is. It's going to save you time, it's going to make you money, and you're going to love the features that are built into Dripjobs. So if you want to check it out, head over to dripjobs.com, and we will give you first priority being a podcast listener to be one of the very first to try out Dripjobs in your home service business. I'm super excited to share that with you, and I'll catch you on the next episode.